Welcome to 2-Bit SoCon. Take 3 now. We've had some technical difficulties today. We're going to make it work here. We got a good episode planned today. I'm Jack Gold, joined by my guy, Matt St. Charles. Matt, how you doing today for the second time?
I was good. My Wi-Fi in my entire apartment just went out, so I'm trying to get that fixed. But we're
That's
good.
wonderful. We're going to,
Yeah.
if it goes out again, I'm just going to solo this thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll restart depending on how far we're
Or
going.
I'll run to the library maybe.
Yeah, so we'll give another shout out SoCon football. We did that earlier. Not a football pod, but shout out SoCon, even though the FCS playoff committee kind of screwed them, giving Mercer a horrible round 2 and putting Chatt and Furman against each other there. Also, life update for me. I'll post this on Twitter at some point, but if you're a loyal listener, you can get a early version / more detailed version. Covered Chattanooga Lipscomb yesterday. Obviously, a lot of people listen to this because they've seen our coverage of Chattanooga. But that was probably my last game covering Chattanooga, at least for the UTC Echo, which is the school newspaper I write for, because I'm graduating here a couple weeks. I had my last class the other day, but I got a bunch of papers and stuff left, so not totally done. Guess technically I could fail these last papers and have
Calling
another
it done.
semester or something. Let's hope not. But yeah, so that's it for me there. I'm gonna keep doing stuff with SoCon, 2-Bit SoCon. I was telling Matt I'm gonna try to go to Western Carolina Vanderbilt later in December. I'm gonna try to get a credential there. I hope I can. Then I'm going to be
Find a
job
job.
hunting, so I may not be doing SoCon stuff at all. I would love to. I'd love to stay in Chattanooga doing that, but there's not a ton of jobs, as you know. And I mean, reason why I've been able to build somewhat of a following on Twitter is because it's really shout out Gene Henley, my guy. It's really just Gene, and Gene has been there forever. So, unless Gene decides to go somewhere else, there's not really an opportunity in Chattanooga for me. We'll see though. So, y'all can follow me on my journey. Matt's going to be taking over for me at the Echo though, as a
Well,
paid position now, slightly him and Lexi
thank
Foley.
God.
So yeah, he gets the breadcrumbs they give us. So yeah, that's it. Not a whole lot. I'll make a post at some point, but that's the short version of it. We've got a good episode. Let's start off. We're going to start with Samford, and shout out Samford for us giving them all this credit for playing Purdue, VCU to start the year, tough schedule. They followed it up by playing a bunch of horrible teams. So
That's
we've gotten to
just
see some of
state,
them. A
yeah.
lot of guys have still played. They played NCA&T the other day, beat them by 20, and I legitimately saw a chart the other day, some sort of offense and defensive efficiency, one of those where it's got 4 quadrants. They were the farthest team in the bottom left of the quadrant. They are legit one of the worst teams in college basketball. So I can't say I watched it. A lot of the Samford stuff I've been box score watching at times. Turn it on for a minute and then, wow, this other team's horrible. But Matt, did you have the dog in you to watch some of these games, and if so, you have any thoughts on them?
I did watch Mary Mac. I couldn't. I
That's the
couldn't
best you
pull
could.
myself to watch NCAA. They're just not a good basketball club. Biggest takeaway for them right now is Marshall is going to miss some time with that hand injury. It sounds like, they didn't make it sound serious, but he's going to miss some time. They started out that game against Merrimack really cold. They scored 3 points in the first 7 minutes before they started picking it up. Rylan Jones kind of got the offense going. That game ended up being closer than one might think. They won by 9, but they kind of played the foul game towards the end. They probably don't win that game without AJ Staten McCray. He came up with some just timely buckets and stops and rebounds for them to swing the game back in their direction. My biggest takeaway from that one is I don't understand the infatuation with Dallas Graziani for Bucky McMillan. I don't, I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't understand why they don't just go Jones, Campbell, Staten McCray, Marshall, and a chore. I feel like that would be their best lineup. Wasn't overall impressed with the chore against Merrimack, and I was gonna say something about it, but then he came back with 26 against NCA&T. So I mean, I guess
Yeah.
he'll get the credit there. But yeah, just really, I'm starting to see Rylan Jones settle in there and get going with that offense, which is good.
Yeah, no, I agree on the Dallas Grisani stuff. And that's kind of where I go is that the other night, I think it was Merrimack. Josh
Yeah,
Holloway finished the game. I can't remember which game it
yes,
was, but I have it in my notes. Josh Holloway finished the game, true freshman. And I've got some cool stuff on
it
Josh
was
Holloway.
it was Holiday or Holloway, Campbell, and AJ State McRae, and
Yeah,
then two
and
bigs. But yeah,
so shout out Samford Scoop, those guys over there, my guys. Um, they're the only guys I really know it's good Samford coverage, like that are out there watching it. Maybe I'm just not cultured enough in Samford to see that stuff. But they had a quote, and I wrote down part of it from Bucky McMillan talking about him, saying, "I think he's going to be one of the best players to ever play here." And just talking about how good he is, and I mean, clearly is. He's kind of maybe more of a late riser recruiting wise, but he was at a big school at Oak Hill and played really well. And some cool stuff about him. He's the reason. He's really the reason Miles Che is at Chattanooga right now, and and you'll understand this
yeah,
here.
piece this together for
So
me.
Chattanooga was recruiting Josh Holloway hard. I mean, they lost that battle to Samford. Like that was a big recruiting loss. I know, like they had about on a visit, people saw him around campus, saw him around the city. You know, big insider here. I've got buddies at workplaces that have that saw him, and like the coaching staff told guys like, hey, this guy will start for us next year if he's here. Like play a big role. He's a really big recruit for us. Then he chose Samford. That left the point guard spot open. Miles Che, coach leaves, decommits. They would not have recruited Miles Che to come play there if Josh Holloway commits. So I just thought that's like we'll see down the road what happens. But
Yeah,
that's a totally like that legitimately is. I don't think you're going to recruit another point guard, freshman point guard,
yeah, no
if
shot.
they get Josh Holloway. But even more because I really like him. Obviously, I've seen him play and the staff really likes him. But I think it's crazy in watching him. He's a dog, and this is how I know he's a dog. This is an insane. So I looked up Josh Holloway the other night. I just typed in Josh Holloway Sanford. I wanted to know, like I wanted to see if anybody had typed anything about him, like playing really well, because I'm on and off on the games and stuff. And I found this out. This is insane. So you remember, John Morant has had all these issues, pulling guns and Instagram lives, beating up kids, threatening kids, whatever.
Beating up kids.
This is true.
Uh,
And I don't know if you remember the first thing a long time ago. Like, well, he like threatened some kid that talked bad to his mom at a mall. Jaw did. Then he also had something where he got in a fight playing pickup. Do you remember this?
hmm
He got in a fight playing pickup against Josh Holloway. It was Josh Holloway. And because I looked up Josh Holloway Sanford and I found an article and somebody was underneath it like, what do you mean he's not as big as Morant? Josh, like he's committed to Sanford. He's 6 foot. And I go and read the article and John Morant countersued him back. But he
Oh
sued
my
John
God.
Morant for beating him up. It says the filing added that Holloway threw the ball at Morant, balled up his fist, and approached him, which led to Morant to strike him. But first of all, getting ready to fight John Morant in a pickup game, that's got enough dog in you. Oh, like that's all I need to
Hold up,
hear.
hold up. So I'm not clear on the jaw timeline. So was this fight before or after he pulled the gun
This
in
is
Denver?
before, and this is why
Okay.
he got banned for the gun stuff. But like
Yeah,
this was, he was walking a
part of
thin
it.
line before all of this. Um, so yeah, he Morant says that he former Memphis area high school basketball player Joshua Holloway, like he was from Memphis, made false statements, is what Morant says, and I'm just reading this, but he said that pretty much like or Josh Holloway said that Ja Morant beat him up, then came back to his house and flashed a gun later. And then like Morant
Oh,
said like yeah, and that was the whole story. But it also says like Holloway threw the ball at Morant, balled up his fist, and approached him like dog. He was 17 at the time, pulling up on an NBA All Star in
Yeah.
Morant, and
Um,
and Morant's countersuit also mentions a threatening Snapchat message to Morant. The attorneys allege could have come from Holloway. I don't know, just crazy. I can't believe that I've not seen that anywhere.
wow.
But yeah,
Oh
that
my.
he's gonna be a star of the SoCon because of that. That's all I know. He's fearless.
What
So
do you think it
shout
would
out
be like?
him.
What do you think it would be like if Holloway ends up in the NBA?
That'd be
And he
awesome, dude. That
faces
would be
off with John Morant.
yes, dude. And I will be pushing that whenever because nobody's gonna know that. And I don't know how that hasn't been. I guess I don't know how that hasn't. I haven't seen that more. Like
Yeah,
that's the coolest story I think SoCon's ever had. Probably that
that's
one of
crazy.
like somebody tried to fight Jaw at 17. So yeah, shout out him. Shout out
Dog.
Bucky McMillan saying he's going to be one of the best players to ever play there. And he's playing more than Garrett Hicks. And this is now we're getting back more to basketball. He's, he'll probably pass up Dallas Graziani at some point, I think.
I'll
He
pray.
really is playing well. And he's impressive. I thought he threw a not only a super athletic and score himself, he's got really good vision, good feel. So more on a chilled out way. I do like him a lot as a player.
Yeah,
So
when I talked to Bucky for Blue Ribbon, he told me Josh reminds him a lot of JP Pegues, and Pegues has become a star in his own right. So we'll see what
yeah,
happens with Josh Holloway.
yeah. So all right, let's move on. Let's move on from them. Let's go to Chattanooga. Let's talk about them. They blew a 20-point lead to Evansville at their home thing. It was a huge collapse, and they turned around and beat SEMO, who's not very good. Then they turned around. I was at the Lipscomb game yesterday. They played horrible, got killed by Lipscomb. I think it was like a 14-point game, but in reality, it's like a 25-point loss. Like they just hit some they hit some
Yeah,
shots late. Miles Che didn't score all game. He had like 8 in a row at the end of the game. They just had some guys score late. I think you were at the MTE with Evansville and SEMO and stuff, were you not? Or you were at least watching it.
I watched both of them. I
Okay.
was at SEMO. The biggest thing I saw with the SEMO loss was there was just a lot of immaturity from them. They got
That
up big, and I feel like they started to do too much. They shot 12 3-pointers in the last 10 minutes, which is it's Dan Earl basketball, but like they were just out of the context of the game and didn't really make a lot of sense. And I mean, they shot 6 for 25 and turned the ball over 7 times in the last 10 minutes. Once that press started, they were not very, they didn't handle it very well. But then, they get in kind of the same situation against SEMO on Sunday, and SEMO applies a full court press, and I think they brought in Rudy Fitzgibbons, and the trio of Fitzgibbons, Honor Huff, and Miles Che all kind of like settled back down, and when SEMO put on the pressure, they handled it well. They weren't turning the ball over or anything like that. But yeah, the biggest takeaway from their last 2 or 3 games for me would be Sean Casano. I mean, you mentioned him last week, I think, about the wing minutes that they're looking for. He could definitely fill that role for them. I mean, you saw more against Lipscomb yesterday, but he's been great.
yeah, I can touch on him. So what I thought, so Chat when they lost to Evansville, I watched that whole game, and I thought one of the things I wrote down was the wings were good. Like Demetrius Davis was hitting shots, Millen hit some shots, and I was like, all right, maybe they turned it around from a wing, whatever. And Noah Melson was good too. He's kind of a guard wing. He's been playing some point guard at
Yeah,
times, bringing it up the court. So um, whatever. And I said that's how they lose games, just missing shots like that. I also thought they need an easy bucket getter at times, and I really thought that the other day against Lipscomb. And that's got to be Sam Alexis or Jan Zedek, just somebody that can score low. I think a lot of times they're too reliant on maybe not tough shots, but threes that are a lot harder than Sam Alexis post took or Jan Zedek post game. Who I think Jan Zedek doesn't realize that he has decent post game at times. Like he doesn't really utilize it enough. Um, but like you said with the wings, that's the main takeaway from Lipscomb the other day. Embarrassing game. Everyone was bad except for Sean Cusano, who really his first action. He played against SEMO, but he played like 7 minutes, and I don't know. Then I don't even. I think he had like a block and that's it. Really, his first legitimate like contributor. He came in with like 13 minutes left in the first half. He looked really good. Now he does look like he needs to get in a little shape, and I think that's what a lot of freshmen. He maybe reminds me a little bit of Sam
And
Alexis from last
Alexis,
year, as
right?
in like probably has some poor weight on him. Will continue to get better as he progresses in college and is in a strength and conditioning program. Isn't the most fast, but dude, he was confident, and that's really what impressed me. Is from the first possession, he had a layup on an inbounds play, which you would think most people could. It was a tougher layup than you think when it's your first action walking out there and contested layup finish. Then he comes down probably a minute later, knocks down a three. I think he shot 2 for 3 from three, and they all looked really good. And it's the first time from a UTC wing. Every time I see, and this is not hate to them, but Demetrius Davis's shot looks completely worse this year. It never was that pretty, but it goes in. It's almost like he kind of
Yeah.
throws it at the rim, but it went in. This year looks bad. I mean, he shot well against Evansville the other day, and I thought, all right, maybe he's back to normal. Hasn't looked the same. Tyler Millen, he shot 20, like around sub 30% last year, in the 20s. You don't ever feel like his going in. Randy Brady's Randy Brady. He's not really a shooter, but he will shoot. I never think it's going in when they shoot it. It's a good if that's not like a they're suck at shooting, but you think it's going in when Honor Huff shoots it. You think it's going in when Rudy Fitzgibbons, those type of players. Sean Cusano, his shot looks awesome. Thought it was going in every time, and he shot it confidently. And that's a big thing. They're getting no wing production offensively. Now, I think I said this in my article that I wrote yesterday. Millen I mean, Randy Brady's rebounded well at times and stuff, but Millen and Davis have had some good moments defensively and rebounding, but none of those guys have brought anything offensively, especially Davis, who last year he could score 20 on occasion. He really has struggled to his standards, and I'm sure the coaches think the same thing too. Um, he struggled. If Cusano can be like a catch and shoot threat, looked pretty decent with the ball. He's dribbled. He's playing on the wing, and he's got legit size. I don't think I realized until I did an individual interview with him yesterday because no one was there, and I was standing there. He's really tall, and he looked big on the court out there. If he can really contribute, and I think there's an opening there, um, that will kind of change. Maybe my outlook on them because I'm pretty down on them at this point, and Gan Earl talked really highly of him too. Just talked about how he always does what they ask him to do, and he didn't say like, "No, nobody on this team does what we ask us to." Didn't call anyone out, but he was like, "As a team, we're not at a good level of, doing the small things. If we tell you to do something, maybe it doesn't always do it. Maybe we've won some games, but he said he saw that loss from a mile away, and he was really high on Cusano, and I asked individual questions, but he also really went on and on about him. That was the longest part of my interview with him. So, yeah, I was super impressed with him, and the rest of Chattanooga, not impressed. I'm rambling a little bit here, but just watching the game, I really thought that against Tennessee Tech. I was like, I think I said on our podcast that I left feeling a little negatively, and it all came to fruition the other day. Just you go ice cold. They doubled Sam Alexis on every catch, not just a lot of teams have tried to double him whenever he starts to dribble into a post move. It was anytime he's in the arc, they doubled him, and guys were kind of standing around. They'll fix that, but if you're going to completely take Sam Alexis away, you got to hit
Yeah.
threes and you've got to get open and stuff. And I really thought the defensive Lipscomb bothered them, and it did really concern me watching them the other day. Not that Lipscomb played great.
Mhm.
My childhood best friend and Will Pruitt, who I went to high school with and stuff. He had
Oh,
22
Julian
points and
alum.
16 boards
Yeah.
as a point guard, so he had a big game. But and then Darren Boyd, another guy who's really good at a big game. But yeah, I'm fairly concerned about them right now until they figure out the offense and the defensive problems. Honor Huff, everyone goes at him. Same with Rudy Fitzgibbons, even Miles Che, they go at because he's a freshman. Um, I'm concerned they might need to go to that Jake Stevens matchup zone and put Sam Alexis in the middle just so. Whereas last year they were hiding Jake Stevens from guarding the perimeter, this year they might need to
Hide honor.
hide Honor Huff, Rudy Fitzgibbons, Miles Che from getting Boyd to the rim and have Sam
Yeah.
Alexis, Jan Zedek, those guys down there holding it down.
Am I the only one that kind of wants to see a little bit more from Honor Huff. Like, it sounds a little weird because he's averaging, 17 points a game. He's shooting 35% from three and 40% from the field. But I feel like he has another gear to go to. Like, I feel like we're not seeing his best basketball yet. And, maybe some of that guard success will translate into them looking a little more put together offensively. But they're certainly not playing their best basketball as a whole right now.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't, like you said, he's put up some numbers, but at times they haven't felt the numbers have felt better than the performance was. Um, let's go ahead to one of the questions we had about UTC's rotation. Let's see. Oh, I just messed up on it. Here, will the Mocs find a rotation that works for league play? Too many long stretches without scoring or hurting them. And I don't think the long stretches without scoring are going to change, but they do need to find a rotation. I thought that yesterday. They played 10 players yesterday. Pretty good minutes. Demetrius Davis played the least, which is kind of surprising after last year where he started a lot during the year. They got to figure out the wing spot. I think the guard play, Rudy Fitzgibbons played a lot. He looked all right. Miles Che is in a kind of a freshman slump right now. Um, I think he'll figure it out. I think the guard and big spots are pretty solidified. It's the wings they've got to figure out, and it's hard to do that when you've got some upperclassmen guys that are underachieving, and then a freshman that who knows what you have in him. He obviously looked good the other day. Somebody's going to be unhappy at some point. So that's my main takeaway is that somebody Millen starts every game, but he's been really disappointing so far this year. He's had some good moments, but you would hope that he would be a little more consistently not hurting them. And not that he hurts them
Right.
every game, but at times he has some poor turnovers, cold stretches, missing a bunch of threes. And Demetrius Davis has looked not really much better from last year. So I don't know that they. It's got to happen. Same kind of like Samford. At some point, guys are just not going to play, and they're going to have that rotation set. We'll move on to UNCG. Flow Sports, curse you. Don't know why you even exist. We probably did some more box we're watching because there's
It's
like no way
all
to watch
box
their
score
little thing. But
watching.
yeah, so they had some big wins over there. What were your takeaways there, Matt?
My biggest takeaway is that Mikal Brown Jones is just a dog. I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know where, the points are coming from, if there's any context to him, like how big they are. But I mean, he's the leading or either the leading scorer or the second leading scorer in all three of those games. He's dominating the glass and everything too. And that's huge for them when you see what we saw this weekend, which was Keyshawn Langley kind of came back to earth a little bit. His numbers were more similar to his brothers than they were in the past. And then they finally got something from Donovan Atwell, and he was the leading
Big game.
scorer against Kansas City, I think. And I was looking at the box score. I think he had 26, but he was 8 of 16 from the field and 8 of 15 from three. I mean, he took one shot inside the arc, which
It's awesome.
isn't what you want from
That's real hoops, is what that
your
is.
son. That's SoCon hoops. And I don't know that that's
Yeah.
what you want from your slashing wing, but I mean, it worked there. I do want to shout out, the whole program. They got to go to the Bahamas, which Bahamas in November sounds like a nice
Yeah,
escape.
that's
And
awesome.
then, it's a lot of what I touched on last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe, that, they can survive these cold stretches because of how good their defense is.
Hmm.
And, they shot 37% from the field and 15% from three in the last game against UIC. And that game ended in the 50s, I think. And they still found a way to win. So, I mean, if you look at all the bracketology and stuff like that, they're kind of the favorite right now to win the conference, and maybe it's because they beat Arkansas and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, they can win in multiple different types of basketball
Yeah, right. And I have pretty. I don't have a lot on them because I had pretty similar stuff to you.
games.
Mikal Brown Jones, he's in that top tier of SoCon
Oh,
player. I probably underestimated him a little, and that's I mean, I didn't know that he's up putting up 18-7 right now. Um, looks like the best player on UNCG at times. And I also found it really impressive that they won, like you said, without Keyshawn Langley playing out of his mind. Got 3 big wins. Defense was there. Mikal Brown-Jones is going to be there every night. Super impressive for me. So that's all I really got on them. You touched on most of it. Let's go to Furman. Furman with some big wins this weekend. What were your thoughts on them as a whole? And then I'll follow you up there.
Yeah, my
Big
my
wins and a
biggest
loss. I mean,
thought my biggest thought on them right now is, um, yeah, I believe that Bob Ritchie knows what he's doing, but he's doing a lot of tinkering with the lineups and who he's got and all that kind of stuff. So they come out against UAB. PJ Smith comes off the bench and Carter Witt starts, and then they come out against South Carolina State and Bowser starts with Garrett Heen on the bench. And then after starting Cooper Bowser, he plays 6 minutes. I don't I didn't watch the game. I don't know if I don't think he got hurt because I mean he was in the box score for all 40 minutes. So I don't really know what's going on there because I watched them play UAB and one of my big thoughts on it was what is Garrett Heen doing for you right now? Like he against UAB, he had 0 points, 0 rebounds in 14 minutes, and he had 2 fouls. So I mean, like, does Garrett Heen make this Furman team better? And then they come out and give Bowser the start, and then they just sit Bowser. So I don't really know what they're doing, but I do know that they 4-4 or 3-4 right now, but they might not have a single win without Marcus Foster. I mean,
yeah,
he
I
is
think that's crazy.
playing high level basketball right now.
The Garrett Heen stuff, 14 minutes. If you'd have told me that at the start of the year, I would have been shocked. Even if I wasn't totally like the biggest fan of his game, but to think that he's getting benched almost. Um, I also found it interesting with PJ Smith. Uh, didn't start. They started Carter Witt. Must have took that personally, put up 15, and then followed it up with a 20 ball the next game. So, not sure that he's going to be. Carter Witt didn't do a whole lot either. Not sure that Carter Witt's going to take over that starting spot. I also liked Alex Williams came back, looked pretty decent in those games for his first
Alex
action back.
Alex Williams looks like the football player playing pickup at the rec.
Dude, I love him.
He's so big and physical, but like you can tell he like just got coordinated and stuff. So like some of it looks a little raw, but it works for him. He's
He's
just funny
he's
to watch to
never
me.
in his life skipped a rep. Never once.
Yeah,
He does extra reps every single set.
exactly.
Unreal. Furman, shout out Furman Strength and Conditioning. I said that last year. They've got some buff dudes. Marcus Foster is no joke either. Like
Yeah, he's
he's buff. Like they're both huge dudes. Also I had small sample size, but Marcus Foster's averaging 22 a game right now. That's it's pretty impressive. Couldn't have seamlessly kind of moved into that. He might be the first. He might be the top option for Furman. Honestly, like uh, I don't know. I think him and Pegues may end up being like Slauson and Bothwell were last year, where depending on the night, one was good or one was the better one. But yeah, he's really looked good, and they've that's all of the SoCon really. They've got to figure out their rotations, figure out and that's early season stuff, but got to commit to somebody at some point, and we'll see how that plays out. Western Carolina keeps pulling out wins. They're 6-0 now, best start in program history in Division One, which is like kind of crazy to me. I don't know. Maybe
right.
6-0 is better than I feel like it is, and it probably is because they probably play high majors in those first 6 games most years. So, but yeah, 6-0 best program history. I'm not taking a ton from them playing Tennessee Tech close, even though Tennessee Tech is not great. Tennessee Tech's just a weird team, dude. They just like, do they suck? Or they just play hard. I don't know. They always seem to play teams close or just get blown out. They're not winning the games, but they're either gonna give you the fight of your life or get beat by
Mhm.
40. That's how Tennessee
Right.
Tech is. So I didn't take a lot from that. I did take Russell Jones Jr. didn't play against North Alabama, and Kamar Robertson had 16. Shout out Kamar Robertson. And then Russell Jones Jr. came back the next game, and Kamar Robertson has 2. So, but
Yeah.
maybe Russell Jones is his kryptonite there. Um, I'm obviously the face of Russell Jones hate. I get I get tagged every time he does something good now. I've probably had like 4 or 5 tags since our last episode. I don't
Hey,
want
you
to be that.
guys
I
tag me
apologize.
on tag me on positive Russell Jones Jr. stuff
Yeah,
because I've always liked him.
I
Be
apologize, dude.
positive.
He followed me on Twitter the other day. I followed him. He followed me back. So we're close. That's all I really need to know. Me and him are buddies now.
Russell,
Um, I
I'm
almost changed
hurt.
my name on Twitter to Jack Gould, Russell Jones Jr. apologist, but I decided not to lose my blue check because they take that away for forever on
Russell
Twitter.
Russell hasn't even followed me, and I'm his biggest supporter. I'm hurt.
Nah, you're probably not anymore. It's probably me, just being honest. I
No,
took
it's
over
Cole
that.
Spivey.
Yeah, I took that over. Shout out Vontarius Woolbright to 22-16-5 the other day. Um, he's been great all year. I like Bernard Pello a lot. I was looking at his stats. He's shooting 50% from 3, bro. Like he started the other day when Jones Jr. wasn't there. I thought last year he shot it really poorly. At times, he felt like he was just a shooter and he wasn't shooting well. This year he's butter and he's playing really well. Got good size. I've been really enjoying watching him. And then I'll also say shout out that win over McNeese State again. McNeese
Yeah,
State is good. They are beating teams. Shahada Wells is going crazy still, and they're like they're top 80 Kim Palm right now. McNeese State is. They're moving
good
up, and
run.
that's a small conference too to be that high in Ken Palm. And Will Wade hasn't even coached yet. That win's gonna continue to age well. I was looking at, and I'll actually go to this. I was looking at their schedule. If they can beat, I hate to be the guy that jinxes it. Y'all can tag me if they lose. If they can beat Vanderbilt lost by 20 to Boston College and looked horrible the other night. I mean, really bad last night. If they can beat Vanderbilt, they're going to go into, I think they'll go into conference play undefeated.
Yeah, it's very possible.
That's unreal to think about now, like that they really could. But Gardner Webb, they can win that. High Point, win that. UNC Asheville's been kind of disappointing this year. They've got a star. And Drew Pember, who's probably him or Woolbright will be the best player, but that's the really only time it will be a toss up. SC Upstate they can win. They play a couple non D1s, and then they got Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt is a broken program. I started a hashtag last night, bring back Kevin Stallings because they haven't been relevant since him. Kind of as a joke, but Stackhouse first time out last night. I know this is in a Vanderbilt podcast. First time out, he put in a walk on. He's the most stubborn coach ever,
Oh my.
and loves to like send a message to his players. But yeah, he put in, and I don't know that a lot of players love him, but Vanderbilt is struggling right now, and I thought they'd look better. They've got their players back now. If they're missing anyone, and even if they're not, Western Carolina could win that. If they win that, they're gonna. I feel very confident they're gonna go into conference play undefeated, which will be unreal coming into the year
Yeah.
after I was called stupid for thinking they would win the league. So, all
I
right,
had a
let's go
few.
to.
I
Oh, go
had
ahead.
a few thoughts on the Tennessee Tech game, real quick. First off, I watched that one on ESPN Plus, and it looked like the game was taking place in a fishbowl. I don't know if anybody else saw that. It was the grossest broadcast I've ever seen.
It's a
You
poor
mentioned
broadcast.
Bernard Pilot. I mean, he was great that game, and it was all in the last like 8 minutes or something like that. Like he was huge down the stretch, and then Kamar Robertson had 2 points, but he came in and gave some good minutes that didn't really show up on the stat sheet to me. Um, and it may be weird to be unimpressed with Chat's win over Tennessee Tech, but I was kind of impressed that they won because Tennessee Tech shot 55% from three, which is
Weirdest team ever.
unreal. And then is it time we talk about Trey Jackson, or you want to
Nah, I'm
let
gonna
him
let him
keep playing a little bit? Okay.
riding. Well,
All
I'm
right.
gonna let him. I had too much confidence in him coming into the year. He's
He
just a
was
little
he was an all
overconfident.
SoCon pick for me too, but he's not played very well.
Yeah, he's just in a slump. I think we'll see, but I just think after seeing him last year, late in the season really turn up, I think he's going to figure it out. But yes, I do agree. It's maybe slightly concerning that he's not playing
Yeah,
well, and they're winning anyway.
it's positive.
Shout out Russell Jones Jr. All right, let's touch on the others left. Wofford had, I say, a good trip to Canada. They lost a few games, got to win, but they just don't have, the roster is limited. First year coaching staff, really first year. Um, I'm taking positives from it. I think Corey Tripp has looked good all year, and this is a big positive for Wofford. They have no seniors as far as they play, at least as far as I've seen. They're going to return everyone. Um, Corey Tripp's looked good. Dylan Bailey had 20 points a few times there. They played Lipscomb fairly close, and Lipscomb obviously is. I mean,
Destroyed Chat.
Lipscomb probably
Yeah.
played their best basketball possible against Chattanooga the other day. That was my takeaway. I watched them a lot, obviously, because my buddies on Lipscomb. But yeah, they played them close. They had some good results there. I thought. Overall, I thought it was a positive. I will say Kyler Philwich has maybe been slightly disappointing to me. I thought he was really skilled. Maybe, I mean, his size, he's not as big, but I thought he was really skilled, and I thought he would step up, be in a big role, not behind BJ Mack anymore. And he's kind of disappointed me. He's averaging like 9 a game, not doing as much offensively. I know when I watched him a few games ago, he just didn't look super aggressive. Maybe thinking a little too much, but yeah, that's mainly my thoughts on them. Also, shout out to Mercer, got a big win over Tennessee State. Tennessee State, now the OVC is, ever since they lost Belmont and Murray State, not even close to the level of conference the SoCon is. But Tennessee State is projected to be one of those better teams, and Mercer, like we said before, going to be in the bottom half of the SoCon. That's a big win to beat a team that's, beat them by one, beat a team that's projected to be one of those top teams with Morehead State there in the in UT Martin in the OVC. Do you have any thoughts on any of the other teams or the ones I just talked about?
Yeah, I thought it was good for that Mercer team to get a week off after what happened what happened at Alabama. That was not a very moral victory for them. But Wofford, I would love to see, what they could look like if Dylan Bailey and Corey Tripp have a good night at the same time. Because,
Yeah,
it just feels like, they like it's either Bailey or Tripp. If they could each if they could sync up and, each have, 18 or something like that. I mean, they could make some noise maybe. VMI, I have two notes on them. The first was that their attendance was 212 for their 100-point explosion against Clark Summit.
they can't just
And
lie about
then,
that and say it was more. That's what most schools do. They shout out VMI for being honest.
yeah. And then I think when Brandon Watkins scores 20, that they're going to win every time. So those are my takeaways.
Yeah, pretty uninspiring bottom half of the league in my opinion. I think that top five is so far and away better than everyone else. I don't think kind of my thoughts are confirmed about ETSU, Wofford, where they could have been maybe good, but they're probably not. And then the Citadel, um, VMI,
I didn't want to say it.
yeah, I just Mercer, I just I don't know. It's kind of sad because I
But
really
then
think the top half's really good this year.
then it kind of feels like, VMI and the Citadel are in a league of their own down at the bottom. Like
I don't know.
I feel like that Mercer team is way better than either of those two.
I don't know. I think
Maybe on
maybe
paper.
VMI. I think they're better. Probably VMI's. I mean, tough situation, but I kind of think the Citadel might be right there with Mercer, and I can't believe
Maybe
we're talking about this right
maybe
now.
this
But
is factoring in is that I've been wanting too much from Jock Quinones and he's just not producing. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I
yeah,
feel like they should be better than those two teams.
yeah, should be probably. So let's go to some questions here. Um, we had. I got Corey Belosi asking to name all the endangered species of snakes they had at the Lipscomb game yesterday. the Nashville Zoo. So it was an education game. They had Lipscomb Academy, all
The
those players
kids
there,
in the stands, yeah.
and they had this lady coming out talking about snakes at every time out. And like there's 51. Here you go, Corey. I can't name all of them. There's 51 endangered species of snakes. I paid attention there, but it was super whatever. Like it obviously wasn't well planned the way they did it. But then at halftime, she brings out a whole humongous snake, and I'm sitting courtside right there, facing the snake, like in the press row. So I had to look down at my phone. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not looking at that." Like it was a little too uncomfortably close to me for a big snake. But whatever. That's not a serious question. Let's go to which teams have the brightest futures, best young guys. Um, so how I looked at this is non-upperclassmen, in my opinion. Is
Right.
that how you looked at it?
hmm
Yeah. Who are your teams? I'm sure we have the same teams.
I kind of looked at it as I assumed that nobody's gonna hit the portal, but like we
Right.
touched on Miles Shea, in our first episode, and kind of said it feels like he doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
So I mean, due to that, I would probably say Chatt and Samford. I think, Chatt, if you can hold on to Huff, Miles Shea, and Sam Alexis and then, maybe Casano too, depending on what he develops into,
And
you could beat him.
Mulholland too. They
Right,
like
yeah.
him. He's not
hmm
ready this year, but they like him.
Yeah. I mean, if you hold on to all those guys, you could be in a good spot down the road. My other team is Samford. I know you're losing Marshall, but I believe you're losing Marshall. But we talked about Josh Holloway and Garrett Hicks. I think has another year or so. They got some good young pieces that could definitely contribute down the road.
Yeah, they got Lucas Walls and I'm forgetting Riley's last name, dude.
Alan Spatch. Alan
I had the
Spatch.
pronunciation down the other day, and I'm totally blowing it. So I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna try. I had it down the other day. Heard it said finally, because I was locked in trying to figure out how to say his name right. Yeah, I agree. I think um, Chattanooga. You don't even think of it like this, but obviously the freshman. I think Noah Melson at some point in time is going to be awesome just because he's a super athlete, and he can shoot it pretty well. And makes some really freshman decisions at times already. But I like him. I like Kazano so far. But something when I was looking at it, Honor Huff and Sam Alexis are sophomores.
I
They're
know.
sophomores eligibility
Yeah.
wise. They're their two best players. I wasn't even thinking about it like that. So definitely them and Sanford are my easy bets there because everyone else is kind of upperclassmen laden. And yeah, that's really it for today's episode. We had another question about ranking the conferences, and my main thought is there's way too many conferences, and also you can't really rank them this early. Um, so sorry to I can't remember who the guy
Well,
was that asked them.
we also had the question about what we feel about the conference tournament on a neutral site.
Oh yeah, I skipped that.
That's a
Yeah,
good
what are your
question,
thoughts
I
there?
think. I personally love the neutral site. Maybe the top teams feel slightly cheated that they don't get, home court advantage. But I think one of the best things about like March Madness and all that is you get to see these teams like play 4 games in 4 days, like, well, in certain situations, 3 games in 3 days or whatever it is. But that's when you find who like is truly the best team in that conference is when you make them, you know, when you take out home court advantage and you're really pushing them to their limits playing, back to back to back days. So I'm personally am a big fan of the neutral sites.
Yeah, so the question was about um, if we thought it should be changed to higher seed host the SoCon tournament in Asheville. And here's my thought on tournaments being places is that if you can't get people to show up to the tournament, it should be home teams getting the advantage. So like in the OVC, they have no one at that tournament anymore. Now that Murray and Belmont, Murray especially was a huge fan base. Um, those should be the home teams. I'm totally for that. But Asheville, they get a good crowd in Asheville. I think that's like a legit, exciting weekend. They get people there, get people watching it. ESPN covers the the last, the championship and some of the stuff like that. So there's no way I think that they should ever do anything where the home team is the higher seed unless fans just quit. I don't know, because I thought that earlier in the year, or I guess it was earlier this year, but last year. So I was watching some small conference tournaments and there was like 50 people in the stands. I'm like, just do
Yeah.
a home game. Like I think those schools, especially where you need to get your best team in the tournament to have any chance of doing anything for the conference. But in
Mhm.
a SoCon, even maybe an ASUN does the home and home stuff or the home stuff. But those bigger mid majors, I think I like the whole idea of doing it that way. So yeah, that's it for today. Um, like subscribe to us on YouTube. I totally forgot what I was about to say. Um, Shout out Russell Jones Jr. I'll throw in some more here. Always foul up three. I'll show in my Twitter bio. 5 fouls is not enough. In college basketball, we need 6. That's it for the episode. Love you guys if you're listening. We'll see you in the next one.